Okay, I have done my report, my human rights report on Azerbaijan. Um, they have a really long history of human rights violations, most of which happen inside their own communities. Um, there's a lot of concern with the citizens there that there could be a collapse in their government, and that they would be left to the hands of the Armenians. Now, the Armenians are indigenous to Azerbaijan, um, but they have been in a conflict for a very long time, and there's much concern that if the Azerbaijani government collapses, that it would leave them open to attacks from the Armenians as well as potentially other countries that are involved. I know like Russia and Turkey are also involved. In fact, Turkey has helped Azerbaijan in the past attack the Armenians. Um, Multiple surrounding countries have complained, as well as the United Nations. The United Nations has suggested numerous times that they should potentially intervene to prevent further human rights violations. And in fact, Russia actually sent troops to intervene. But because of the situation with the Armenians, they actually abused the situation and now use that as a power stance in the area. Um, One of the most important topics about Azerbaijan at the moment is the discussion of human rights versus state security. There is a lot of debate on political Islam, um, and basically the core question is, um, should human rights, including religious freedom, be sacrificed for the nation's security? There's been a lot of issues with Islam. Sects of the Islam religion um, becoming terrorists in the area and claiming religious freedom to avoid persecution. Um, Azerbaijan has also used Syrian jihadist mercenaries along with Turkey to basically wage a war on the indigenous Armenians. Um, there was basically like a 44-day war, and they used cluster munitions, drones, artillery rockets, phosphorus bombs, which scorched the forest, causing severe burns among soldiers and civilians. Um, Azerbaijan has committed quite a few war crimes in the midst of their conflicts. And their president basically stated that if the Armenians inside Azerbaijan were to rise up again, they would simply crush them. Um, let's see. So basically, there's been research on kind of like the effects of this on Azerbaijan civilians, and they have basically convinced their civilians that the government is working in their favor and doing everything ethical. Um, they have become kind of this abusive communist country. But unlike most, Azerbaijan seems to still keep trust, at least on a base level, of their government. This does not include all citizens, as most of the indigenous Armenians are definitely not happy with their treatment. But for those that claim to be Azerbaijani, they seem to ignore the abuse of the state government. Um, they're also known for enacting martial law when its citizens rebel. There have recently been frequent riots and civil rebellion. Um, there was an outbreak of violence with casualties along the international border between Azerbaijan and Armenia near Tovis from July 12th to July 16th, and this was in the last couple of years. Um, Authorities restricted freedom of movement and access to information. Significant human rights issues included unlawful or arbitrary killing, torture, arbitrary detention, harsh and sometimes life-threatening prison conditions, political prisoners, arbitrary interference with privacy, politically motivated reprisal against individuals outside the country, pervasive problems with the independence of the judiciary, heavy restrictions on free expression, the press, and the internet, including violence against journalists. The criminalization of libel and slander, harassment and incarceration of journalists on questionable charges, blocking of websites, substantial interference with the rights of peaceful assembly and freedom of association, restrictions on freedom of movement, severe restrictions on political participation, systemic government corruption, police brutality against individuals based solely on sexual orientation, and the existence of the worst forms of child labor. Basically, since their independence from the Soviet Union, Azerbaijan has been on a downward spiral. Their president was also caught up in the Pandora Papers, and his family has actually embezzled millions from the country. And so why their people are on the lower economic scale, they're basically living it up, and a lot of the money is actually going to his son, Haydar, who was 11 at the time of this recording. So they're basically funneling the money out of the country. So Azerbaijan has created quite a few issues in their area of the world, and they have clearly committed quite a few war crimes against their own people and the Armenians. And so that's why I thought it was important to write this report.